want to start off on that note. We're less than 100 days out into the Iowa caucuses. You're zeroing in on climate change. You have an event today. Why is this message so important now, and why in the state?
Oh, only because the future of the planet depends upon aggressive and bold action in transforming our energy system. Look, what the scientists are telling us is we have a very short period of time to move aggressively to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy, or else, the debate is over, or else the planet we're going to be leaving our kids and our grandchildren will be increasingly unhealthy and uninhabitable. Amazingly enough, what the scientists are now telling us is they underestimated the severity of the problem. So the Green New Deal proposal that Alexandria has worked on, which is incorporated into my proposal, is the most aggressive and comprehensive proposal ever introduced, and that is exactly what we need.
Even just this morning, I was knocking on doors and I was talking to folks out here in Des Moines, and last night we were in Council Bluffs, and I think especially here in Iowa, I've been talking to so many people here and families that are in the agricultural industry or are impacted by food, farming, et cetera, and this is a real threat that's right here that we're dealing with today. We're not talking about just what we're going to have to deal with in 10 years, but we're talking about what's happening right now with unprecedented flooding in the Midwest. People are still trying to recover, and we need a real plan that's not just disaster recovery, but disaster prevention. And that's going to take a massive Green New Deal in order to preserve the lives of families in the state.
And let me just add to that. It is, look, everybody knows that I disagree with Trump on everything. But when he calls climate change a hoax, that is not just a threat to the United States of America. It's a threat to the entire world. As president, what I will do is bring the world together to try to combat this international threat to our very well-being. And we cannot continue to ignore it.
I want to touch on the race for 2020. Former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg is considering entering this race. Congresswoman, you're a New Yorker. Was he a good mayor?
You know, I think there are some real issues that Mayor Bloomberg had in the city. To this day, he still defends his policy of stop and frisk, which impacted families like mine. It was my cousins and my friends that were stopped on the New York City subway system and racially profiled and patted down and thrown into jail for low-level marijuana offenses. And I think that, you know, we need to talk about those issues, and we need to talk about the fact that that there were real issues in New York City, especially along lines of race, that we have to contend with.
Do you think he'll make a good president?
You know, I don't think billionaires should be president right now. I don't think that that's what this country needs, and I think that it's going to take us further in the direction of wealth and political power concentrating at the very, very top of our country. And I think that our democracy should be for everyday people, not for purchase.
Senator, sources tell us part of the reasons why he's considering entering this race is because he doesn't think anyone can do the job that is currently in the field, not even you.
Not even the, well, you know, that is the arrogance of billionaires. As I understand it, he is planning to skip the first 4 states we're doing. I'm doing 5 events this weekend right here in Iowa. We're all over New Hampshire, South Carolina, Nevada, California. But he is too important. You see, when you're worth $50 billion, I guess you don't have to have town meetings. You don't have to talk to ordinary people. What you do is you take out, I guess, a couple of $1 billion and you buy the state of California. But I happen to believe the American people are sick and tired of the power and arrogance of a billionaire class which increasingly controls not only the economic life of this country, but the political life of this country. We are a democracy, and that means one person, one vote. You want to run for president? That's fine. Don't think you can simply buy an election by spending billions of dollars.
Do you think you're the only candidate in this field that could beat the president?
No. But I think I am the strongest candidate.
Who else do you think has a good shot?
Well, I'll let the voters decide that. But I think, and one of the reasons I'm running is that based on my history, based on what happened in 2016, I think I can defeat Trump, and virtually all of the national polls indicate this. We beat Trump in battleground state after battleground state, including right here in Iowa. And I think the reason for that is our message is speaking to the working families of this country who are sick and tired of working longer hours for lower wages, while at the same time the people on top are doing phenomenally well. They want an economy that works for all of us, not just Mr. Bloomberg and his billionaire friends.
I want to touch on your message because it aligns with Senator Elizabeth Warren. I think there's many voters that see two progressive candidates in this race. They say, okay, maybe you differ on how to fund Medicare for all. Maybe you differ a little bit on your immigration plans. Is that the only real difference between you two?
Well, let the voters make that decision. Elizabeth Warren is a friend of mine. And she's running her campaign. I'm running our campaign. And one of the nice things about democracy, you know, is people will make that choice. Not the media, not me, not Elizabeth, but the people of this country. And we'll see how the process plays out. All I can say is that what I believe in is not new to me. I have been fighting for working families. I have been taking on the most powerful special interest in this country, and in fact the world, for decades. All right, taking on the drug companies and the insurance companies. This is not new to me. Fighting to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, not new to me. That's what I've been fighting for years. So I would simply hope that when people look at all of the candidates, they take a look at my record, at what I have fought for and the successes that we've had.
But do you think voters deserve to know the difference between two candidates in this race that are aligned on a progressive agenda? What would you tell the voter that wants to know what is the difference between you and Senator Elizabeth Warren?
Well, I think all I can say, again, Elizabeth Warren is a friend of mine, and I am running hard to explain to the people of Iowa and America what I stand for. People will make their own differences. I believe, among other things, that my record goes way, way back. These are not new ideas to me. If you check the 2016...
Are you suggesting that her record...
No, I'm not.
Okay.
You see, this is what media tries to do
I'm
in
just
all due
asking,
respect.
that's what I'm clarifying.
No, I'm
that's
not.
what I want to clarify.
Elizabeth Warren is a friend of mine. She's a co-senator. We work together on many issues. The American people will make that decision as to who they think is the best candidate. I happen to think that for a variety of reasons, we are the strongest candidate to defeat Trump. And in addition to that, what we are trying to do is not just win this election. We understand that if you're going to transform America, if we're going to guarantee health care to all, if you're going to deal boldly with climate change, if you're going to raise the minimum wage to a living wage, if you're going to make public colleges and universities tuition free and cancel all student debt, you know what? You need a mass movement of people. And what I am extremely proud of is in this campaign, we have well over 1 million volunteers, thousands here in Iowa, who are working, knocking on doors, making the phone calls. So our campaign is not just about winning the election, it is about building a movement which takes on the greed and corruption of the corporate elite.
We touched a little bit on billionaires. You believe that billionaires should not exist. Correct me if I'm wrong. Senator Elizabeth Warren yesterday disagreed with you on that.
Well, this is what I believe. I believe that tonight, in the United States of America, the richest country in the history of the world, you're going to have 500,000 people sleeping out on the streets or in emergency shelters. I believe that in America, we have 40 million people living in poverty and children who are going hungry. And what I know is we have more income and wealth inequality today than any time since the 1920s. Let the billionaire class tell the American people why it's okay for 3 people, 1, 2, 3 people, to own more wealth than the bottom half of America. So there's going to be rich, there's going to be poor, I got that. But the level of wealth and income inequality that exists right now is obscene. You got millions of people working 2 or 3 jobs, and almost all new income and wealth going to the top 1%. I intend to change that.
Do you think she has the wrong message on that front?
Let's let Elizabeth Warren speak for herself.
Congresswoman, yes, last week, the senator told me he has the most progressive plan to fund Medicare for all. Do you agree?
I think Bernie's plan is a really strong one, and it's one that I happen to agree with. And I think,
is it the best option?
Yes, I believe that Medicare for all is absolutely the best option.
His plan for funding it over Senator Elizabeth Warren.
Well, personally, I think I have a preference for Bernie's plan. I think it's an important one, but again, every candidate has their own distinctions, and it's up for each person to decide.
I do want to touch on the endorsement because it was a big deal. It brought out the largest crowd that we've seen in the presidential primary so far. Congresswoman, you've said before in an Instagram video back this summer that young people are more informed and dynamic than their predecessors. You are supporting the oldest candidate in the race. You're also the youngest woman elected to Congress, and you've spoken out about the importance of supporting other women in elected offices. So what do you say to the voters that say, well, there's 2 progressives in the race, why not support the female progressive candidate?
Well, I think for me, it's about, and what's led to my support of Senator Sanders it's not just what we're trying to accomplish, but how we're trying to accomplish it. And what we're going to have to do in order to win our future back is to come together and transcend race, gender, class, come across lines of religion, not in ways that erase each other, but in ways that lift each other up and acknowledge each other's struggles. And for me, as a former organizer for Senator Sanders in 2016, as someone who has been committed to issues of Medicare for All, I felt very personally tied to the fact that he had been fighting for me before I even, came into politics. That when I was a little girl, he was fighting for justice on so many different fronts. When I was 4 or 5 years old, he was fighting for marriage equality in a time when even the Democratic Party abandoned that principle. And so for me, it's a very personal decision. And I think every person's vote in this country is an intensely personal decision where we talk about our stories and we bring our whole selves to it. And I personally have admired the senator's leadership. And now that I'm a member of Congress, I see and have experienced the immense amount of pressure there is to conform. And I frankly don't know how Senator Sanders has remained this consistent for so long. I really don't. And I think it takes an intense amount of moral fortitude, but also commitment to policy. And I can't, even just as a member of Congress, I can't imagine the pressure that there would be once someone enters the White House to conform, to be the unique sole target of that much pressure. And I really admire the senator's ability to do that, and I believe that if there's a candidate that can deliver and remain committed to these issues, it's him.
You've spoken positively of both the progressive candidates in this race.
Absolutely.
Was it a hard decision for you?
I think this moment is a tough one. Every decision is a tough decision. We're at a precipice in this country, and I think that's what makes this decision, that's what adds pressure to it. But that's why I think it's important that we don't just blindly say, I'm going to do what I've always done. Every year and every cycle, we calls on each and every one of us to reassess our principles, to reassess our commitments, to update and evaluate what we're fighting for in this country. And I think that's why it was important to me to support Senator Sanders in this cycle.
No specific reason on why one progressive candidate over the other, though, for you?
I think for me, it's about a personal story and a personal history. And I think the senator's history and commitment is unique, and just as every candidate's is unique. And so I think it's less about, I think we're so used to electoral cycles about being the lesser of two evils that we are not used to selecting the best of great options. And our electoral cycle, and especially this primary, doesn't have to be angry and nasty and anxiety prone and confrontational. It can just be about how we're going to build the best movement. And at the end of this thing, we're going to have to link it together, not just across the Democratic Party, but linking together with independents. And even, believe it or not, there are Republicans that do come up to me and say, you have a point on some issues as well.
We are in an interesting time, the race for 2020, the battle over impeachment right now. Senator, I do want to ask you, because if an impeachment trial were to happen, how would that affect your campaign? Would you have to break away from the trail?
Well, I got a job to do. I'm a United States Senator. I happen to believe that in Donald Trump, we have a president who has obstructed justice. I think he has used the office to enrich himself and his family, which is in violation of the Emoluments Clause. And I think it is pretty clear that he has used our military aid to the Ukraine in order to try to get dirt on a political opponent. So I think he should be impeached. If he is impeached by the House, there will be a trial in the Senate. I will be doing my job, and I'm there. And I guess I'm just going to have to try to be in Washington, D.C., and Des Moines, Iowa, and Concord, New Hampshire at the same time. I will do my best. I'm sure it'll, and we'll do what we have to do.
Have you given any thought to that? It sounds really hectic being here in a key early voting state, being in D.C., being
It
at
will
the
be. It
trial
will be.
potentially?
Yes, it will be. And look, I am a senator, and I took my oath of office, and I will do that. That's what I'm paid to do. But I am also going to wage a vigorous campaign to the best of my ability.
Congresswoman, I do want to ask you, we had some news that broke earlier today. Your Republican colleagues announced that they intend to call on Hunter Biden as a witness in this impeachment probe. Is he an appropriate witness?
No, I don't think he's an appropriate witness. And not only that, but I think that the reason they're calling for these witnesses, these new witnesses, is because they want to make a spectacle and a circus out of this entire proceeding. They want to distract the American people from the very words that Donald Trump uttered from his mouth in that call with Ukrainian officials, trying to extort a foreign government into intervening into the United States elections. And in fact, these witnesses that they're calling are politically motivated. Republicans are turning this into a partisan issue. And I'll tell you, if a Democrat did what Donald Trump did, I would be calling for that Democrat's impeachment as well. And we need to realize that the integrity of our Constitution is bigger and more important than our loyalty to any political party. We need to protect the rule of law in the United States of America, and they're imperiling it by trying to turn this into a sideshow. And it's undignified and it's wrong.
They also said that they intend to call the whistleblower.
And, you know, that on another level is profoundly dangerous. And this is endangering people that we rely on to call on when government goes awry. We rely on whistleblowers to maintain the integrity of our government. They play an important role. And that is why we have whistleblower protection laws on the books in the United States. Is because what we want to say is that if you see something that is profoundly wrong, if you see someone that is breaking the law in the name of the United States, then you should be protected in speaking up about it. And trying to expose a whistleblower's identity after they have complied with the law is a profound form of intimidation. And we should not allow for that in a democracy and a republic like ours.
Senator, you were asked in September if Hunter Biden and his conduct should be fair game in this Democratic primary. Then you said you did not have enough information to know. We've certainly learned a lot in the weeks, and so have you. Do you think that Hunter Biden and his conduct should be fair game?
Well, let me just suggest that what Republicans are trying to do with Hunter Biden is clearly deflect attention from the impeachable offenses of Donald Trump. The idea of calling up Biden in terms of the impeachment process, I was not aware that Hunter Biden worked for Donald Trump, was in the administration, knew anything about this. This is clearly an effort to deflect attention away from the impeachment process. I mean, people can take a look at Hunter Biden, they can take a look at anybody they want, but that's really what Republicans are trying to do right now.
You said Clinton's email should be off the table last time around. Do you think Hunter Biden and his conduct should be this
What
time
I
around?
said last time is that there was what the American people want, and sometimes the media doesn't get it. They want to know how they're going to have health care as a human right. They want to know how they're going to have a dignified retirement. They want to know how we're going to deal with climate change, how their kids are going to be able to go to college. And very often what happened last time is, media was focused on emails and emails and emails. And I thought that was, again, deflecting attention from the real issues that are impacting the American people. So, what we are going to do in this campaign is talk about income and wealth inequality. We're going to talk about health care as a human right. We're going to talk about raising the minimum wage to a living wage. We're going to talk about the global crisis of climate change. Those are the issues that I'm going to focus on in this campaign. And frankly, that's why I think we're going to win. That's the discussion the American people want us to have.
One more question for you. You two were on stage together last night. I spoke to you about the energy in the room. If the Congresswoman was 5 years older, would she be your running mate?
Look, I've said this before, let me say it again. And I don't want you to hear this because your head will explode here. I don't know of any person, I've been in Congress for a few years, who in the course of less than 1 year, she's been in office less than 1 year, who has had more of an impact on American politics as a freshman member of Congress than she has. It's not only that she has focused on the real issues impacting the American people, climate change, the usury rates that Wall Street are charging working people in this country. But she has been an inspiration. She has been an inspiration to working people all across this country and to young people in particular. And I happen to believe that the future of this country depends upon young people becoming increasingly involved in the political process. And there's nobody I know who can do a better job in inspiring those young people than Alexandria.
All right, but in, world.
I get into too much trouble for that. That's what I always tell people.
What about a cabinet position should you be elected?
She is, again, at the end of 1 year, she is a leader in the United States Congress. And her ideas are resonating all over this country. If I am in the White House, she will play a very, very important role, no question, in one way or the other, absolutely.
No hints.
No hints.
All right. I want that exclusive, though, when you decide, Senator.
Okay.
Thanks for your time.